This is Woke Wednesdays. We do this every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight I have the pleasure of having an amazing guest, a doctor. We have a whole doctor on the show. You're only the third doctor to be on the show in the past 19 months that we've been doing it.
What?
And you're the first female doctor.
What?
Yeah, turn up for the doctor in the house.
Turn up, y'all.
Turn up,
Am I
turn
allowed to
up.
cuss on this? This is
Hell yeah, you can cuss on this. Hell yeah, you can
Turn
cuss.
that hell up.
Hey, there it is.
I'm honored
There it
to
is.
be the first doctor,
Yeah,
female doctor,
female
and
doctor.
I hope that you have more.
You definitely won't be the last.
Just pave the way.
Man,
Come through,
this
y'all.
is big. This is big. Thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. What are we talking about? Well, you want to introduce yourself real quick? You want to tell the people who you are?
Who I am. So
Who are you?
My name is...
Oh, give us the whole thing. Give us the whole thing.
Ayodele Ayoka Gomi.
Oh, I'm gonna need to rewind. Say that again, please. Rewind that, please.
Okay.
Yeah,
My name
rewind that.
is Ayodele, Dr. Ayodele Ayoka Gomi. I go
Ayodele Ayoka
by Gomi.
Gomi.
Yeah.
Ayodele Ayoka Gomi.
Gomi, yes.
Hey, turn up for the pronunciation.
Shout out.
Okay.
So, I go by Dele for short.
Dele for sure. Yeah.
And I am I'm an epidemiologist, to be clear.
Oh.
Which entails of being an epidemiologist and an artist. And yeah.
And a lot of your research is around cancer and other diseases, correct?
That's right. So I concentrate in infectious disease and cancer epidemiology, specifically HIV and cervical cancer, but my work now extends beyond those things. We look at a lot of different cancer outcomes.
So if you've never, I'll be honest with you, I can't even pronounce epidemiology until like yesterday. I've been practicing, English is my second language, trying to master this thing.
Shout out, you did good.
So we're gonna get into what epidemiology is, and because even before the show, I was like, "Yo, Dele, what the hell is epidemiology?" Like,
Let me be honest with you. Most people, when I introduce myself and I'm like, "Oh, I'm an epidemiologist," they're like, "So what is that? Skin?" I'm like,
that's epidermis.
No, yeah, epidermis. But no,
Okay,
that's
epidermis.
not what I do, y'all. Epidemiology is the study of epidemics, most crudely, but generally I study health outcomes. So that comes in many forms. Cancer, it could be infectious disease like Zika was a major thing in Miami. Ebola. You can
Swine
look at
flu?
Swine flu, but then you can also look at like social epidemiology, societal factors that impact
racism,
health outcome, structural racism,
sexism.
We
can get into it. We can get into
all
the
it.
isms.
Environmental health,
Yeah.
injury, all the things.
So this is your first time tuning into Woke Wednesdays. Please feel free to post comments, ask questions. Y'all, she's a doctor, so she has the answer for everything in life.
Nope.
I
just know how to find the answers.
To
I don't have all the
everything
answers.
in life.
I got all the answers, Sway. I don't.
She's a doctor, y'all. So I'm so excited. This is Dr. Dele.
Thank you.
Ayodele Ayoka
Gomi.
Gomi. Ayoka Gomi. Yeah, that's... Hey, man, I'm with it.
Dele works too.
Dele works too. So tonight we're kind of... Because I think this is beautiful, the fact that we get to intertwine everything that we're going to talk about tonight, which is being a first-generation student, because your parents are immigrants, and you've really... 5% of Americans have a PhD. 1.82 of that 5% identify as Black or Latino. So I think I did the math the other day. It was like maybe 170,000 people in the entire country out of the 352 million people that we have. So you're part of a very, 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 very small fraction of people, and it's also due to structural racism and sexism and all that stuff. So this is just so dope. So let's talk a little bit about how you got there.
Sure.
What kind of a doctor are you? Because there are different type of doctorates.
There are.
And what you're kind of doing now. And y'all, again, please feel free to post comments, ask questions. So yeah, let's get it popping, man.
Yeah,
Where are your parents from?
So my parents are Nigerian.
Okay.
Shout out to Omo Naija, where you at though?
Okay. Wait, you gotta walk me through that. What is that?
Naija, like a Nigerian
Omo,
kid.
but you said
children.
Omo.
Omo is children, like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Omo Naija.
Yeah.
Okay,
Shout
Omo
out to
Naija.
Nigeria.
Are we learning tonight? We're learning.
We're learning all the things
Now,
today.
what
tribe?
What tribe are you from?
So that's Yoruba.
Yoruba?
There's like
Okay.
three main
Igbo's
tribes:
one of them?
Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa.
Hausa.
So
Okay.
my father actually is kind of like Hausa and Fulani, which is another tribe, and Yoruba fusion, and then my mom's Yoruba.
Okay.
Yeah.
But were you born in Nigeria?
I was born in the U.S., in Illinois, Chicagoland.
Okay.
Shout out to Chicago. It's
Oh.
always time for the percolator.
Oh, and that was the percolator comes from?
I mean, we claim it. I think other Midwesterners might try and
I wasn't sure. If y'all don't know what the percolator is, y'all might be too young.
Yeah.
And that light is making an appearance. It's coming and going.
Transient lighting.
It's transient lighting.
So yeah.
So your parents. So real quick. So there's some students that were part of this really cool, dope camp with Hispanic kids in North Carolina. That I was with. They're tuning in tonight.
Nice.
And one of their questions was, they asked me a while back about biculturalism.
Yeah.
Negotiating this. Your parents are immigrants. You're born here. Because you have like African American friends who can't fully like understand like what it's like to be an African American in that sense.
Thanks to white supremacy.
All that stuff.
Always. But yes.
And then you have Nigerian friends who might not understand what it's like to have the American side. So what is that? What has that
Absolutely.
been like?
It's one of those like you're kind of constantly sort of battling what can be like dual identity. Being a kid who grew up in America, but also having like this cultural influence at home, but also realizing like you got these friends, you have friends and people that you identify with when you're not at home, and that strengthened particularly like leaving the house. I went away for school, for high school, for college.
You went for high school?
I did. I went to a public boarding school called, it's basically like a math and science academy.
So you've been smart your whole life.
Only on Wednesdays.
Only on Wednesdays. Okay. You work on Wednesdays. Okay,
so,
cool.
Right. It's been difficult, to be honest with you. And I think one of the roles that I've come to realize is like having that unique bridge between the two spaces, particularly in the context of dealing with racism in this country, and knowing that friends of mine and others who are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade don't have that direct connection to the continent, and that's not their fault, and they shouldn't be penalized for that. So my task, I feel, is my purpose in life as I do my work in epidemiology or do my work in the arts, is to like make sure that I am a part of creating a bridge and allowing for like a unified African diaspora. And I think that's the case even among Latin immigrants. Like we need to make sure that wherever we are in the world, we're not disconnected, we're impacted by systems of oppression in the same way, and we need to fortify each other so that we're really building a community. So, and I'm definitely with everything that you're saying. Do you watch Dear White People? Yes.
Okay.
That's my show.
So if y'all don't watch Dear White People, definitely check it out on Netflix. They're not paying us to promote, but I'm just saying, definitely check it. They're really
but
cool.
But you should.
All right, they definitely should. But the reason I ask you this is because they have an African student in the show.
That's right.
Right? And there seems to be a disconnect between him and there are certain things that he just doesn't get.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that the African American kids just don't get from his side of it. So, do you ever have these moments where you feel like, man, I really have to negotiate between who I am at this particular moment?
Yeah. And like I saw something earlier on the gram about like how people need to recognize, I mean, obviously we know about white privilege, but there are also levels in privilege. There's privilege due to gender, there's privilege due to obviously race, and so economics, ableism, there's all sorts of ableism, exactly. So acknowledging what can manifest itself as privilege and sort of reconciling that and being present and understanding of others' backgrounds and their experiences. There, honestly, like being totally transparent, it took me a while to even sort of break free of what I'd been brought up culturally, as far as like how to, with your perspective of like going to an HBCU. I was actually like looking at Howard. My parents, I love y'all, but like
Did you go to an HBCU?
I did not. I did not. And they frowned upon it, and I think that's not necessarily specific to just like African parents or whichever. I think that also occurs in certain like black families as well. So or
American
like African American families. So like
Yeah.
it's really, you have to be intentional about being aware, gaining knowledge, and understanding how, again, like systems are at work in our daily life. So it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey for me.
So there's this stereotype, right, about African parents that they're big on education and pushing their kids like to go to college. Is this something that like you experienced? Actually sips the wine. Oh, actually sips the wine.
No, finish your question.
No, but is it something that maybe you experienced? Because I see this a lot with a lot of not just African immigrant parents, but immigrant parents from other countries.
Yeah,
I do see this a lot where they are big on pushing school.
Yeah. On
their kids. So is this something that maybe you experienced as a kid growing up?
Not at all. No, yes. I did. You know, as I said, I'm an epidemiology artist, so there's a major creative component to who I am and like what I
we were just playing music.
We were just jamming before we got on live. But you know, I did get to engage in certain creative spaces, but they were strictly hobby. When it came down to career, you needed to be a doctor, an engineer, you know, a lawyer, banker, whatever it is that is, you know, considered esteemed or has clout based on like societal influence. So you were finishing up high school and. Well, did you have other siblings, or was it just you? Yeah, I got 2 brothers and a younger sister.
Were you the first one to go to college?
No. My first brother went to college as well. My brother after him is autistic, so he was, you know, essentially was home. So then I was like the next one. So
when you brought up like different type of privileges,
sure,
right? So your older brother going to college, as a guy, certain things that you might face, might not face, but then as a woman, you're the first woman in your family to go to college. So what was that like? You being in high school, maybe junior, senior, were you thinking about college already, or was it how was that?
I mean, yeah, there was you know a grand push to get into college. Which I think, you know, generally speaking, it's great, you know, get education. We can have a separate debate about, like, the way education is set up in this country, but we're not going to do that. Yeah. But, so, you know, I was pushed towards college, but as far as, like, you know, I was pushed towards a certain type of major, you know, again, the sciences, staying in STEM or something to that effect. And then I felt a particular burden also because, like, you know, we have the culture piece, and then, I was the first girl to go. My brother was like struggling in college, so I was like trying to keep up with that as well. So, I mean, there were pressures and trying to do well.
So, real quick, J.K. Penn is saying, "Amen." My dad is from the BVI,
British Virgin Islands.
Oh, okay, there it is.
What's up?
And he and my BVI family all like, and then caps like push education.
Yeah,
like, it's a big thing.
It's not a game, like.
And anything outside of that, like, you're low-key considered a failure.
Yeah.
Like, my family, love my family, but, like, low-key, like, high-key.
There's a really strong influence. Like, I think about, at the time that I was getting ready to go to college and learning about, like, even people who are still in Nigeria and, like, trying to break into music. I mean, y'all are super familiar with Afro beats, like Davido, Wizkid, and all that. They're super prominent now, but back then, that wasn't a thing. They weren't encouraging any of that. You know, a lot of people, and I'm grateful for them for like paving that way to be like, I gotta break free and do something else. But
So I have a question.
Sure.
So there's a contention that I have, right? When folks say like, "Oh, I'm African," or you know, African people do this. Africa is a big ass continent.
It's a big ass continent,
big
y'all.
Ass continent.
It is large. Please don't trust them with the Mercadian maps that they put out there. Africa is not smaller than the U.S. or Canada, y'all. It's not
huge, right? But when people say Africa, they're usually implying West Africa, right? North Africa don't count. Everybody like me in North Africa. That's just fact. Like Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia. That's not Africa because they're not predominantly black. Let's be real, right? People usually count sub-Saharan West Africa. East Africa, nobody cares about Ethiopia.
Particularly as it pertains to doing health and outreach and aid and all that stuff.
That's some real shit. So how do you feel like when people kind of put Africa into this homogeneous type
country?
They make it a country.
It pisses me off, and I'm grateful for the people who have really, and actually right now we have an amazing era right now. Pan-Africanism is alive and well and building
what
up.
What is Pan-Africanism?
It's just embracing of Africa all over, and not just geographical, but descendants. You're embracing the African culture and wherever you are at. So that has been a tremendous effort in combating this narrative around Africa, the country. But yeah, it gets irritating. I still have to correct people. It still halfway bothers me when folks are I'm traveling in Africa. Yeah, but where in Africa? Because you could go to Tunisia, or you could be going to South Africa, or you could be going to Nigeria or Ghana, or you could be going to Ethiopia. They're just really
and even
different.
if you go to one country, there might be so many tribes with so many languages and cultures.
No, I don't speak African. That's not a thing.
Yep. South Africa, there's a lot of white people.
It's white people.
So but the point is that it's a very heterogeneous country. So I was just kind of wondering. Oh, have you heard this one? Hey, are you from Wakanda? Have you heard that one?
Wakanda forever. Actually, I have had people come up to me to say that. I think. I'm a richly and proudly melanated sister,
Okay.
So, out and about in these Miami streets in particular, they were Wakandan queen. I embrace it. But also, I say I have dual citizenship, or maybe triple citizenship. The true citizenship. People, there's ignorance.
But sometimes it's met with love, right? Sometimes and sometimes right? Sometimes
and then you gotta correct.
Sometimes Wakanda's actually not a country. FYI, I just want to let you know that. Vibranium, it's not real. Just FYI.
I should have worn my vibranium beads.
I used to have vibranium braces.
Did you?
Yeah, no.
No.
A lot of my frat brothers are Hurston, you can't come to Wakanda. They're you can go to East Wakanda. They might let you in there.
If you put on the lip, they're not letting you in.
They might let you in East Wakanda.
You're not getting in. I'm sorry.
So you're trying to get to college. So what was?
Sure.
So did you apply to more than one school?
I did.
And where'd you end up going?
I ended up at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, UIUC, U of I. Yeah. Yep. So it was state school for me, so I just headed an hour and a half south. And
is there a large Nigerian population in that area?
Not where U of I is. There was African Student Association, but at school. But there are more Nigerians obviously in Chicago. I would say there's a concentration of folks in Texas. It's warm and oil. DMV for whatever reason. Somebody can answer why that is.
DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Yeah. And then Atlanta.
So the reason I ask is because you get to college being a first generation student. There are already not a lot of black kids on campus, like most universities in the country. And in addition to that, you're also coming with a different type of culture that isn't African American. Mm-hmm. So what was that kind of transition like? And you're also put away from home.
Yeah, and at that point I was away from home for a few years. So, it was tough. I kind of high key, I struggled in college. That was both with identity, with figuring out my place, and figuring out what I wanted to do, because I was still very wanted to pursue this creative piece, and I wasn't. So it was an interesting experience. However, I will also say that there was a collective of people. There was an African Student Association. There was a Black Student Union. There was a collective. But interestingly enough, for one reason or another, I kind of fell on the outside. I felt very on the outskirts. So, yeah. So
is it safe to say that you didn't have it all figured out?
No, did not. They guidance counselors in PWIs, but
predominantly white institutions. Mm-hmm. So these are most colleges in the country. Yeah.
And Big Ten school, it was massive, 40,000 students or something stupid.
Oh, wow.
So they're weeding you out one, and then like I was pre-med, so.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask you.
Right. I'm not that kind of doctor though, for the record. I was pre-med, but there was no guidance. I don't recall getting like true guidance in college.
Yeah, same here. I don't.
Yep. Well, it's like that was the thing.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I barely got through college too.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask this is because oftentimes we put so much pressure on young high school kids. Well, what's going to be your major?
No.
What school are you going to go to? What are you going to do for this? What are you going to...
No.
And it ends up being just overbearing, like, it can be too much sometimes. And so I'm trying to tell the kids that you don't have to have it all figured out.
You don't. I mean, in college, it's the time to explore, like try different classes. I wish I had done that. Like I would have done more sociology classes. I would have done more urban development and planning classes when I was in college. I wouldn't have, like, literally, y'all, I was in organic chemistry, biology, like, stuff that pre-med majors were supposed to be doing, and then I never ventured out, with the exception of like taking ballet classes, but that wasn't contributing to anything else other than like my personal. I did enjoy it. I loved it,
and that's okay to do in college. Like, and that I love what you're saying. Like, to venture out.
You got to.
I recently spoke to this. He's a foreign exchange student from India, and he's a computer science major. And I was like, yo. He was like, telling me what was one of the most impactful classes you ever took? I was like, feminist theory. I'm like, you took a feminist theory class. He's like, no, for what? I'm like, yo, but that, talking about getting uncomfortable, examining your own privilege, like, so the point is that venture out, explore, like, college can be enjoyable in so many different ways. It can be really tough, and it is tough, but it can also be enjoyable.
It absolutely can be, for sure.
So one thing that I didn't know what a master's was when I was getting my bachelor's. I didn't know what that language was. I didn't know what a doctorate was. I thought the only doctor that existed was a medical doctor. That's all I thought it was. So how did you figure out, like, I didn't know what graduate school was, so how did you figure out what that stuff was?
So, incidentally, like, one of my close friends, who, I don't know how he did it, y'all. I really don't, because he was doing the most. He was a Q, he played football, he was in the same major I was, which was super hard, like molecular cellular biology. He was just doing everything, but so he finished early and then ended up doing a master's, and then so that I think that was the first time I kind of got to thinking a little bit like beyond, in addition to medical school, because at that point I wasn't actually very interested. I had taken an MCAT. I kind of like sabotaged it, y'all. I really. So
real quick. So let's break down real quick.
Sure.
What is a master's? What is an MCAT?
Sure.
What is that?
I mean, well, like a master's degree is like it's a graduate degree. So like you have graduate professional schools. A master's can come in many different forms. You're in like business administration, so that's an MBA. You can have a master's in public administration, MPA, and they're sort of like these degrees that you can use to further leverage your knowledge and refine your expertise in a particular subject area, and it also makes you more attractive to employers.
And it's also a degree after you finish your bachelor's.
You finish your bachelor's.
So you finish. So you can go to you can get an associate's, which is usually like a 2-year degree, then a bachelor's, 4-year.
Yep.
And then a master's would be the next step.
That's right.
You can go to law school.
You can go to law school.
They earn a JD, a Juris Doctorate, so the doctorate of the law. They're asking, what school did you go to again?
For which one?
For bachelor's.
I went to U of I.
That's how you know you. That's how you know you got degrees. That's how you know you got degrees. That's how you know you got degrees. What school you go to? Oh,
I got degrees.
Which one? For which one? I'm surprised you didn't cross your leg. Oh, bougie self. Sip on the wine.
No, you're
Speaking
crazy.
of wine,
I know we should have busted out the rum though. I'm sorry.
We
should have.
We can bust out the rum.
I have work to do after because life.
It's never too late to bust out the rum. I mean, but let's finish the show.
Pull up.
And if y'all are home, please pour up with us. Cheers to y'all.
Can we just toast our?
Hey man, cheers to y'all. Cheers.
Y'all the realest ones. Hi, my friends that tuned in too. Hey y'all.
Hey friends. Petite Pastor, that your friend?
Yes. Hey Lisa.
What's up, Lisa? So masters come. So this guy ended up telling you kind of what a master's was.
I mean, give or take. I was familiar as well. So my mom actually got an MBA as well. So like, in the
United States.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She got in
Cool.
So she did it later in life. My mom actually she's one of those people who she go-gets regardless. She was doing like entrepreneur stuff. She was making shoes actually.
Oh, Dre's out here too. Say what's up.
Hey Dre, what's good everybody? Oh, hey y'all. But then she got an MBA later. She might have been in her 40s, and then she went a step further because the most, and got a JD in her 50s.
Wow. So was this while you were also in school?
Yes.
So you and your mom were in grad school at the same time?
Pretty much.
Figuring things out together, I imagine.
Ish. It was a little different because I was like, actually I might have been, was I in between then? I can't remember the exact timing. So I took a couple years off after my bachelor's. So I didn't go to...
Please tell everybody that that's okay to do. Please tell everybody.
Y'all, in fact, I actually highly encourage it just because it gives you a chance to get out into the world. College teaches you sort of like the concrete textbook stuff, but you also need life experience.
I agree.
I would love to like redo college curriculums, or like if anybody's out there and wants to like create an actual like college institution, and we can get some like funding from somebody to make this happen.
Johnson.
So that I'm just saying LeBron or like,
LeBron.
But like the way that education is set up and the academy is set up, it's not giving you the information that's actually going to translate into like, well, I won't say that very absolutely. It teaches you information, and there's some other information that you need to gather in life that you won't get in school.
And the crazy thing is, sometimes, especially when you have immigrant parents, I see this a lot with immigrant parents, where it's like, you need to go straight through.
Right. There's no breaks.
There are no breaks,
but I took a break.
I took a break too, man. It was needed. Like, I'll be honest with you.
It was a struggle.
It was, And
actually, I took a break and technically wasn't like, not even supposed to. So I ended up in a master's and PhD program. And
so there are programs out there where you can combine.
Yes. So you can do a master's and PhD all together. That happens often, I think. You can do an MD, which is like the traditional medical doctor, with an MPH. You can do a JD.
What's an MPH?
MPH is a Master's in Public Health. And so that's kind of what I have. I actually have a Master's of Science in Public Health. And
it's complicated. The point is that there are a lot of different types of degrees.
There are many things, y'all.
So real quick, there are different types of doctorates. So there are different types of master's degrees, and there are different types of doctorates. Yeah. So what are some examples?
You can have an EDD.
That's a doctorate education.
In education. You can have a PhD, which is a doctor of philosophy. You can have a PsyD, which is like it's a version of having a doctor in psychology. You can have
MD, medical doctor.
MD, medical doctor.
The JD.
You can be a JD. You can be a PsyD, which is like a doctor of science. One of my coworkers has that degree.
So real quick, the PhD is something so you finished the PhD.
I finished the PhD.
I'm in the PhD now.
You're in a PhD now.
And the PhD of doctorate of philosophy can be in different areas. Yeah. Yours was in what specifically? Epidemiology. And mine's in higher education. Yeah. So you can have a PhD in different fields. Yeah. And that's okay. So when it comes to when it came to your program, did you have like a research focus, like a concentration?
Sort of. Like, I guess when I entered the program, I was coming...
So your master's and PhD was at Carolina?
At Carolina. So I went to UNC Chapel Hill, Tar Heels. What up, y'all?
North Carolina. Shout out to P.D. Pablo.
Shout out to P.D.
Wherever P.D. Pablo
Take his shirt off.
Come on, and whip around
your head.
Like a helicopter.
Like a helicopter.
Go ahead, P.D. Pablo.
Like a chopper.
Petit Pastor saying degrees on degrees on degrees.
Hey.
And Q, Kai Speaks out here. Okay, y'all follow Kai Speaks TV.
Hey.
One of my frat brothers. Yeah.
It was good.
So P.D. Pablo, Carolina.
Carolina.
PhD.
Yeah. So I came in with like a cancer sort of focus, but then I got there and honestly was like, oh, there's so many other things and maybe I should try something else. So I kind of changed gears. I was infectious disease and
would that be like HIV or like STIs?
STIs, so like sexually transmitted infections, or
like
why
influenza. They changed that? Do you know why they changed?
No, there's no change. So like
it was STDs and
there still are STDs. So,
okay.
So there's diseases and then there's infections, because some infections are they're short-lived, like they're actually just infections, and then infection can lead to disease.
So infection means something that's short-lived, like temporary?
In theory, yes, but there so like you have things like chlamydia and gonorrhea. Yeah, we're talking about them things.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Put a cover up on it.
Yeah, y'all be safe out there.
Y'all be safe out there.
Safe sex.
Yeah, safe sex for real. I do. So like you have diseases that can be treated. Infections that can be treated. You can have diseases that are more that you can't treat, or they've yet to find a treatment for. So HIV.
A cure.
There's no cure.
There's no cure for it.
Excuse me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you were kind of figuring out cancer might be a focus.
Yeah.
When you first got there.
Yes.
And what did you end up kind of doing?
Both, incidentally. So I did human papillomavirus and HPV.
HPV, yeah.
And
what is
cancer. So it's a virus that actually most everybody has, like highest of keys. It is the most common sexually transmitted infection.
Oh.
More common, or as common, more common than herpes. And
really?
Yes. And everybody has it at one point in life. You are likely to clear it and never know, but there are certain strains that you can get that are really high risk, and they can lead to cancer. So I studied HPV and cervical cancer because HPV is the necessary cause for cervical cancer. And it's
what are the other symptoms? Like, are there like things that
you're essentially asymptomatic, especially in men, which is why they're pushing for so you don't have symptoms.
Asymptomatic means no symptoms.
You won't present symptoms, like obvious symptoms. So if you're a woman, this is when you end up getting the annual pap smear. You go every year to your doctor.
Can I ask, what is that real quick? Yeah.
It's basically when they go in and they swab your cervix.
Oh.
And
does that hurt?
No, but depends on the woman. Everybody's built differently, and so they swab your cervix, and they examine if there are any abnormal cells in your cervix. And so if there are, then they may recommend that you have a follow-up procedure or follow-up appointment where they will look more closely at your cervix.
That's called a pap smear.
So yeah, the first thing I described with the swab is a pap smear.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the HPV is what?
It's the virus that causes it causes abnormalities and can cause cancer.
So it seems like
does cause cancer.
So it seems like it can be either non-threatening or it can be extremely threatening.
So there's like literally hundreds of types of HPV genotypes.
Oh, okay,
there are 14 that are high risk, and there are 2 in particular that we know to cause cervical
cancer. So out of the
cancer.
thousands, there are 14. Hundreds, okay.
There are 14 that are high risk, and the 2 that have been most talked about and are included in the vaccine that's out now are 16 and 18.
Are there like particular demographics that are mostly affected, like either racially or economically?
So some of my work, as far as HPV or
HPV
cancer, so yes and no. And so there are some racial ethnic differences in HPV incidence. We're still exploring, because like HPV is relatively-ish new relative to other infections that we've been studying, and like understanding distribution of these types in the population. And this is all like the core of epidemiology, FYI, for folks who are listening and haven't really understood like what the kind of work is. So understanding if there are pockets. There's early work that shows that there's 16 and 18 that we know to be the issue, and then there are some other high risk types that we see more. Are they all numbered? They are numbered. Yep.
So like.
Not 1, 2, 3, 4
like 800
per
is
se.
one? Oh.
No.
Okay,
there's no 1800 to my knowledge, but
that's a tequila. I said 800.
So yeah, well, 1800.
Thinking about liquor. Look at you thinking about liquor. Okay. I heard thinking about tequila. So we have a question from the Corbello. Did you receive a lot of support and guidance in grad school? Did you have a thesis in mind, or did you come with your thesis while you were in grad school?
I not directly from the people who needed to aid me. So I had to, and I think this might be the case for a lot of people, especially if you go to a PWI.
Predominantly white institution.
Yes.
You're just joining us.
That you have to kind of get mentorship from different spaces. So that might be,
that's key.
Yeah, like, so you have an advisor that you get or assigned to. I actually had to switch around 4 times, so I think that's...
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Did you have to do a thesis in your program?
I did. I had to do a thesis and a dissertation.
So real quick, a thesis is kind of like a study.
Yeah.
That you conduct, and it's long. report.
So yeah, and like depending on where you are in the world, like your thesis might be your dissertation and vice versa. But in the States, you have a master's thesis and then you have a doctoral dissertation.
Yeah, cool. And I'm glad we're breaking this down because a lot of the language that we often use, like
interchangeable, and folks don't.
And folks sometimes don't understand, and rightfully so because we don't talk about these things.
I barely even know. Like, what's a dissertation in real life?
What? Man, my life is a dissertation.
My life is a dissertation, still being written.
So your doctorate was Doctor of Philosophy with a focus
in epidemiology,
and you do work around diseases and cervical cancer, infectious diseases.
That's right.
So you graduated.
I did. I finished.
So you're a doctor.
I'm a whole doctor. A whole ass doctor.
I was gonna ask you something, but real quick. One of my frat brothers, King Me, is asking, how challenging was it to balance your schoolwork and personal life? Were you employed while in school? Well, that's a good question.
Yes. I did a research assistantship while I was in school.
What is that? Tell the folks.
It is essentially where you are working with like a lab or with a researcher, and you're conducting research to work towards a project. And I was being paid an hourly wage for that. Plus, they covered the health insurance, which was great.
And they paid your stipend?
And they paid me a stipend.
And they paid for your school?
Oh, no, separately. So like my working was my wage. I mean, it was a stipend.
But they also pay for your schooling?
They paid for in-state tuition, and then like I had to apply for residency in North Carolina to be eligible for tuition. Oh no, tuition remission was what happened when I first got to North Carolina because I moved there from Chicago. So they granted me tuition remission depending on like departmental funds. Sadly, a lot of PhD programs, if they're smaller, they will pay for you, but mine wasn't one of those. So I had to work for the most part through school up until the last 2 years of my program, and then I applied for a fellowship and got it.
How long was your program?
Total, including the master's and the PhD, it took me 8 years. So it took me about because I was doing doctoral and master's coursework at the same time. Wow. So there were like 10 master's, MSPH, PhD, the joint degree program, together with like 30-ish other doctoral. Finished. No, some people abandoned ship. High key, y'all. I actually abandoned ship, but I came back because of life. So, yeah.
And that was in your PhD?
That was after my master's. So I actually kind of took another break, and I went to be my creative self in New York, and then I moved back to North Carolina.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so life. You talked about life. I actually had been married at that time and like lived life then as a married person. I am no longer married, but that was life in the midst. Being.
Thank you so much for being like just transparent because I think this is huge. Because again, everybody thinks they have to have their shit together. No, like they think it's, and you don't. Like you're on your own journey. Like I hate when people say, and I get it. People will be like, I got my master's by the time I was 22, 23, and I'm like, what does that even mean?
There's no parade for that, y'all. Yeah, I mean, unless also I guess you're an entrepreneur and you have like a Fortune 500 company, and even then, all our journeys are our own. And I had this conversation. Shout out to MBS Free about like journeys and how not to compare yourself. Please, y'all, just be true to yourself. Try not to look outward. It is a terrible habit. Don't start that habit now. Like live your journey and live your
absolutely.
Truth. Yeah.
And people will be like, oh man, like I'm still working on my bachelor's and I'm 25. I'm like, yo, like there is nothing wrong with
y'all. Just heard me say my mom got a JD at in her 50s, right?
Like this is dope, and these are the stories that we need to hear about more. Yeah. I think the 23-year-olds getting master's, I think that's awesome and
good
that's
for y'all.
Great.
If you know what you want to do.
But not everybody's like that.
Nope.
And I'm just over this societal pressure that ends up really harming people psychologically, physically. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, like, this is your own journey.
It's okay. Like,
embrace your journey.
It really is okay.
So thanks so much for being transparent. So you came back to finish your doctorate.
I sure did.
So you took a break after your bachelor's.
And I took a break after
your master's, and you came back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And you finished.
And by the grace of God, I finished. And with a collective. So if you're in a program now.
And with the what?
A collective of students. So like I had a core group of students who like held me down. We held each other down. I cannot say with enough emphasis how important that is, like in any stage that you are. And this was like all Black students. They're all PhDs now, epidemiologists and nutritionists and scientists, like that. It's important to have a supportive group with you. Don't try not to do it alone. It's not, I don't recommend it.
No, absolutely not. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do your shit alone, man. It's tough.
Do you have a support group? A writing group or something?
I got Jesus. I got Jesus.
Okay.
My mom prays for me.
That's good.
I have really supportive professors.
Good.
Very supportive professors.
And that's beautiful.
My line brother just moved back. He's starting his PhD program in my same program.
Great.
So that's support. So yeah, it's so highly needed. But I think you also said that it was Black students. I think it's so important, especially as a POC, person of color, like to have these strong POC like support groups when it comes to just anything you're doing in life. I think being part of my fraternity is amazing. Seeing brothers out here doing amazing things, it's just always encouraging and supportive. But the other thing too, when it comes to grad school, like there's money out there, so you don't have to like you don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to pay for this shit on your own. There's money out there. There are scholarships for everything.
There are scholarships. There are fellowships. There are rich people trying to appease their white goods.
I'll be honest with you, white liberals. I don't really get down. I don't get down with white liberals, but if they're trying to pay for stuff for me, I'll take it. I'll take it all day.
I'll take your money as long as I don't have to sign my soul over.
Hell yeah. Well,
that makes sense.
So Petite Pastor is asking first gen question. She's saying, sometimes it's pressure to take a path that'll make you money, abandoning other loves. What would you tell other first gen students about following your dreams regardless?
To follow your dreams regardless.
Because you also went to New York.
Yeah, I moved to New York, and that was
after your master's.
It was after my master's, and I was a freelance makeup artist in New York. I was not an epidemiologist.
Hold on. Rewind. Hold up. So hold on. So you got a bachelor's in pre-med.
Yeah.
You got a master's in master's public health. And you want to go to New York to do freelance makeup. What? What? So what? Whoa. Okay. So what in the hell? What the hell happened? What?
I mean, to be frank, I was over it. Like I was just, I was at a point, and I think part of this.
I need some more wine. She said freelance makeup, not freelance singing, not photography. She said makeup. That's crazy.
So to be fair, and people have different experiences in graduate school. My experience was different, and it was difficult. Like I told you, I switched advisor 4 times. One of my first advisor actually unfortunately passed away. Oh, wow. And then so I kind of got like thrown over to somebody else in the interim, and then like that was not a good fit. The next person was not a good fit, and then my last person was my friends know, but that was, I mean, she was crazy, but I still made it through. She was crazy, legitimately, but she was also the only person kind of doing the work that I was interested in. So hope she never watches this, but oh well. No, you're crazy. But at that point, I was just sort of like, I'm not able to be in this space, and I need to do something different. And also I was living life, so I was married at the time, and I was trying to build a life, and I just felt like I wasn't able to really be fully engaged in other non-school things. So
real quick, I love what Petite Pastor said. She said, hold up. It's okay to have lots of loves and passions in life.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you, Lisa, for the affirmation. It is, and I will be the first to speak on that, because I love to do a lot of things. Like we were jamming. We were playing guitar and singing, and I love to sing and I love to dance. Dance is like my first creative passion. Makeup kind of like.
If you haven't seen her, y'all can catch her Everyday La Soul for
every day.
So the reason
I'll be doing a percolator because I got her.
The reason I was freaking out wasn't the makeup part; it was the freelance part.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong. Makeup is an art.
Yeah.
But the freelance, that shit is serious. I don't care what you're doing. Freelance is tough.
Yeah. And so between that, and I also worked at Mac too, and so that was like both. Okay. And then I was like almost being a second assistant to my husband at the time, who is a photographer. So like I was just doing all the things that were associated with being a makeup artist and like being part of like this creative service industry. So it was a lot, and actually I learned a lot too, because it was like half running a photography business while also developing my own business, entrepreneurship. Yeah. You know, so those are the life skills, high key, that I picked up when not in school.
Yeah, and then you came back.
And then I came back. I had gotten pretty far, and I'd done all the coursework for my doctorate at that point. I just needed to identify a thesis topic, or a dissertation topic, sorry.
So real quick, so there are two components to the PhD.
Yeah.
There's the coursework. Mm-hmm. So you had a bunch of classes to take.
I had a bunch of classes to take for both my master's and my PhD. I had to fulfill competencies. You know, you have to do like comprehensive exams that make sure you know all the core concepts of what you're studying. So I had 3 of those. I had one for my master's, and then I had 2 more for my PhD. So one that was, you know, general for epidemiology, and then one specifically for my substantive area, which was infectious disease at the time. I got into cancer after I had taken like a couple cancer epidemiology courses too, but I focused initially on infectious disease. So once you do that, then you start to figure, in theory you should hopefully be trying to figure out your thesis topic while you're also doing coursework. And so doing your research assistantship, or just talking to professors for folks who are in graduate school and trying to pursue a PhD, even before you get into the program, like if you do that ahead of time, when you get there, like start to have the conversations with reach out to professors, reach out to people.
Be proactive, yep.
And if you have neighboring institutions, or you know people at like other institutions where you just find their research interesting, like I would try to even
absolutely
contact them too.
So we only have about 10 minutes left.
Oh snap!
Yeah, it's crazy.
We've been talking.
We've been talking. I've been drinking. Yeah.
I've been drinking.
Hey.
I've been drinking.
Hey. Oh, that's Beyonce. Oh, never mind.
Whoops.
I'm not Beyonce.
Don't let the beehive hear that.
Oh, yeah, you get snatched up. You saw that video.
You will get snatched.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? So you got a doctor. When did you graduate?
I graduated last year.
Hey, turn up, y'all.
It has literally been a year, y'all, and I'm pinching myself. It happens a lot. Once you get it, you'll just have these recurring moments. Oh, hey, Len. Where you're like, oh wait, so I'm a doctor? Somebody actually calls me Dr. Dele consistently, and I'm like still getting used to that. It's crazy.
You'd be like, man, if I were you, I'd be like, can you say a little louder?
Speak up.
Speak up.
For the people in the back.
Speak up when you're speaking to me.
For the people in the back.
The people in the back.
So yeah, so right now I'm a postdoctoral associate, or a postdoctoral fellow. There are different ways to call it, but basically I'm doing a postdoc. I liken it to, if you're a medical doctor, once you finish medical school, you go to residency, like you do that internship phase. This is the internship for PhDs. That's what I'm doing now.
Absolutely. Real quick, and I want to ask about what you're doing now. We have a student. She's saying, I'm also an immigrant. What kind of challenges do you have coming to the United States? Maybe your parents, maybe.
So like my parents, kind of had to. I would say like maybe the acculturation piece was like the biggest part. My parents spoke to me about that, like how that was a struggle, and they actually went to Canada first before they ended up in the U.S.
Oh wow.
So I think that was one of the major pieces, and then like if you're then like getting plugged into schools, you try to get resources for like international students. I think Dre's listening and works heavily with international students at FIU. But yeah.
So, but real quick question about your mom, because you said your mom went back to school. Not only was she born in a different country, you said now she went to Canada and she came here, and then she ended up doing a law degree in her 50s. We gotta have your mom on the show next time.
I know. I'm gonna tell her. I was talking to her right before we got on here.
But that's, I think, to speak to immigration and people who are immigrants, that's powerful. She didn't let anything stop her.
And she had 4 kids by then, y'all. 4 kids. One with a learning disability. So that's. I will not say anything more than I love my mother. She's an incredible woman.
And you said she got a master's before that.
Yeah. So there's all them degrees, so I was riding up against that pressure. It's like, oh, my mom can do it, so you got to too.
In adulthood too.
That's
adulthood. So there's hope, man. There's hope for anyone watching, right? That's amazing. I've been in the library studying like at like midnight, 1 a.m, and I've seen mothers with like 3 children, mothers studying at 1, 2 a.m in their like uniforms for wherever they work at, with their children asleep on a blanket in the library, like at 1 a.m.
Yep.
And they're out here grinding.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. That
real ones.
Man, ones. That is serious. Petite Pastor saying it's the jollof. Jollof rice. Yeah.
Nigerian versus Ghanaian, right?
Yeah.
That's another.
Who does it better? We have to have a Woke Wednesdays episode.
We will have to do that.
So we got about 8 minutes left, real quick. So, in this postdoctorate, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You work at University of Miami.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll just like break down. Essentially, the idea behind a postdoc is to create a platform for you to build like your research and essentially become an independent investigator yourself. I will say that for me, I did the postdoc to explore, whether I could have a redemptive experience with academia, because I came off and I was like, I'm not trying to do academia. And so for people who go through graduate school and also like you might already know that you want to be a professor and take a faculty position somewhere, they're looking at you that you should have a postdoc under your belt. Like it's better for you to have a postdoc and then like transition that way versus like if you decide you finish, and depending on what industry you are or field that you finish in, you might go off and work in industry, or you work for like an NGO or whatever. And at least in my field in public health, you could either go the way of academics or industry. So as a postdoc, you're kind of conducting research and working under an investigator, but also like
what exactly are you researching?
So I'm doing cancer prevention now, and looking at cancer disparities in South Florida. So we have Miami-Dade County, we have Monroe County further south, like the Keys, we have Broward, and then like West Palm Beach. That's the catchment area of the cancer center that I work for. So my major project now has been this vehicle. It's basically an outreach vehicle that's going to provide cancer screening to communities all over South Florida.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's dope work. And, there's a lot of work that goes into, establishing a vehicle like that, and also like complementary work that goes into like policies to make it easier to create a healthcare structure where people don't feel disenfranchised, and that's currently the case. So, like, we wouldn't need a vehicle to go out and about if people feel like, one, they have the transportation to get there, or they're fulfilling basic needs, and have access to care, and just access to basic needs, as well as health insurance.
I love that you're calling it basic needs. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
This is like basic human existence. We should have these things, and that's not the case right now. So I love this work, and as I think about work that I would want to see in the future, or I would want to do, or encourage other people who are interested in public health to do, think about work that also influences policy that helps us start from the root of the problem. Because prevention is one thing, but you can prevent things all day, but if they are homeless, preventing cancer is not the priority in general. I just need to live, right? So
hell yeah, if they can't speak the language, man, they don't got money.
You're fearful of deportation. You're fearful of being torn away from your family.
Hell yeah,
major things that and they all impact health. They impact you on a biological level. I mean, all of these things are intertwined. We don't operate in a vacuum in public health. It's definitely connected with how we exist in this world and in this current structure, in this current country.
Man, I love what you're saying. And real quick, we got 4 minutes left.
All right.
Wendy's saying amen.
Hey.
Amen to what you're saying. So do you believe that your experiences as daughter of immigrants, black woman, artist, all these things have influenced even the way you just approach medicine and your field? Right? How do you think it's impacted everything that you do?
I mean,
that's a loaded question.
It's super loaded.
I'm sorry. I asked great questions.
No. And you do. This is why you have Woke Wednesdays. I mean, it kind of just goes back to what we were talking about, right? This work is beyond okay, you have a disease, or even being in a hospital and what doctors do and treat you. You are a whole person that's physical body, mental, spiritual, emotional. Like you are a whole person, and all of those things are a part of how you need to treat and approach and relate with people. So like you, it's not just as simple as like I gotta fix your broken arm or whatever. You have to consider like what are the realities. Again, like if you're an immigrant and you have a whole family to feed and you're working several jobs, like, or you're formerly incarcerated, and or you're not able to get a job, like like all those things.
Say that,
how you're treated in the workplace, microaggressions. So I don't take my experience, and I try not to take my personal experience for granted, and it makes me think and be aware and show compassion to the experience of others, if anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we got 2 minutes left. If there's something you could tell the people, some parting words. We got all folks from all walks of life watching tonight. So what would you tell the people? We've talked about a lot. We talked about just identity. We talked about medicine, disenfranchisement, epidemiology.
Yes, you got it now.
Epidemiology. I'm gonna learn this word.
Yes.
So what would you tell the people?
What are my parting words?
Yeah, in 60
honestly,
seconds.
live your truth and pursue it, so that you are able to be and share in community. Like I feel like that's the best way to do it. Treat and respect people around you, and just do that while committing to your truth. I feel like we're able to avoid harm if we do that.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ayo Dele.
Ayoka. Go me. I didn't even tell you what it meant.
What does it mean?
It means so joy has come home, and then joy surrounds me, and then gomi is something about like a crown or something.
So you're like a royal joy
things
that comes around. Yeah.
Crown joy.
Hey, there it is. I love it. Man, thank you so much.
Yay,
thanks so much for tuning in tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, y'all. Next week we're talking about the role of journalism in the era of Trump. So tune in next week. We got a journalist from iHeartRadio on the show.
Dope.
But thank you, Doctor. Thank you for coming through tonight. We appreciate you.
Thanks, y'all.
And y'all, we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, good luck in school for those going back to school, y'all.
Oh, yeah,
you
definitely.
got it. Stay up.